Here it is, the Kraus KPF-2170 stainless steel faucet. So here's the box. And it seems to point out that it's got stainless steel all over the place here. Let's see what's inside. Of course, we got an instruction pamphlet with all the instructions. And put that to the side. It came, I already opened up earlier, but it came in this beautiful velvet-like sack. So the whole thing was inside a velvet-like sack. And then we've got the actual faucet here. And it's a monster. And then underneath, let's see if I can get that off the side without... Underneath, we got new stainless steel hoses. Now this is nice. It's a big, huge, giant wrench to tighten it down. You can say stainless steel braided hoses, and all the tools you're going to need to do this thing here. So this baby is a monster. I mean, the old one was pretty good size. It's a really nice Moen, but it's got some problems. But let's see here if kind of see like how much bigger this thing is. Well, we'll get a shot of that later. Looking closer at the faucet, I do see a few interesting things. Like this is like a really strong permanent magic marker that they put a little blue mark on here. I guess it must have passed some QA check. Then it's got a big red one, and I wiped on that. It's like waterproof magic marker. I'm going to probably have to use something like maybe paint cleaner or some sort of solvent to get those marks off. But the good news is this is solid stainless steel. So there shouldn't be any problem with that, but it is kind of odd that they did things that way. You can see how nice the stainless steel shaft is that screws it down there, a big stainless steel nut, and it's got several inches worth of deck height, which is one of my biggest worries. Take out the old faucet. You notice I put down a bunch of cardboard down there when you're laying on your back and you got sharp ridges. I mean, this is just an awfully uncomfortable job. Taking off the old one, you can see there's a maze of pipes up in there. I disconnected the old water supply lines, but these particular water shut-off valves are crap. And you know, the rule of thumb on plumbing is anytime you're doing anything, you end up replacing everything. So I hate these stupid little things, and the new faucet comes with nice stainless steel lines. So what I'm getting at is I'm going to have to replace this valve and this valve because they're pieces of junk. And the thing to replace them with is what they call the quarter turn valves. Those things work a lot nicer. And so that means turning off the water supply for the house, draining out a lot of the water so there's no pressure in there. And then you unscrew the coupling nut here, and those are what they call compression fitting. And then you put a new one on there. So there's no such thing as an easy plumbing job. Another thing is taking these things apart. Now, the instructions say to use an adjustable wrench. Well, you can kind of do that on the things that are really easy to get to, but an adjustable wrench just does not cut it. You really need a professional wrench set of all the different sizes, or else you're just wasting a whole bunch of time, especially when you have to go way up in there and disconnect the main hose and then undo the mounting bolt. So just an idea for you to become prepared and be ready to replace everything. Anyway, here's the old faucet. It wasn't as much work getting out there as I was afraid it was, but it all comes down to having the right tools. So let's take a little closer look here. You can see there's a big, huge supply line for the faucet, and that's where this thing was hooked up. And I used a 15mm wrench and got that thing off, and it wasn't too bad. And then this coupling thing kind of went around all these things and clamped up over here, and there's a hole in the middle, and the hole went through the supply line too. And there's this nut, and I don't know what the hell size this was. 15mm is too small. 17mm was the closest I had. It was kind of on the big side, but still worked. And with the 17mm socket, we got that baby off. But boy, without the right tools, you're not getting these things off easily. And with the right tools, it comes off real easily. So now I just got to get new water supply valves, because I really don't like the kind of water supply valves that have the metal built into them. And I like to get a quarter turn, so I'll be back with that. Okay, I turned off the valve at the water main for the house. And now let me just drain any water that's in the lines over here. And then I got a new valve for this baby. A new valve, it's a double valve. It's got the two 3/8 inch compression fittings, one for the dishwasher, one for the sink. And then this one's just a single. The new water valves are installed, and these are what they call compression fitting. And it's really odd when you try to size these things, because it's called 1/2 inch pipe, but it's actually 5/8 inch diameter. So sometimes they'll say 5/8 compression, or sometimes they'll say 1/2 inch, but it's all the same thing. And then to 3/8 inch compression fitting outlets. And of course I have two of them on the one to the left for the hot water, which goes to the dishwasher. So anyway, after you put them all on there, you make sure there aren't any leaks, turn the water line back on, make sure there aren't any leaks, and everything is good. Now we're ready to install the faucet. Okay, here's the instructions, and what a pile of crap. They don't have any words, and no real instructions at all, but you can kind of see 20, 21, and 22. Let's talk about those two right here. So I've kind of got things in a row. This is like an optional spacer if needed. And then underneath that would be the rubber gasket. And we have the rubber gasket in this piece of metal. And you can kind of see how there's little tabs coming up here that'll actually fit right inside there. And then we got a washer. And of course this is up, like upside down. Then a nut would go against there. But what they don't tell you is this part over here. Here we got our little hose. Because what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to unscrew this plastic collar. Well, first of all, before you unscrew the plastic collar, you unscrew this. Oh, I can't do it with one hand. But you unscrew, you see the brass part, you unscrew the stainless steel part from the brass part, and then you'll be able to unscrew this plastic cover, and then this stainless steel nut, and you'll be able to slide them all off. So that's what they don't say in the instructions that you're going to have to do. So let's do that right now. Okay, now I got everything in a row, starting at the counter and working your way down. And then, of course, this would go at the very end of the hose. And this is the collar, that's just a little protective friction collar to keep the hose from getting damaged as it slides back and forth. And over here you can kind of see how everything looks. This can go all the way out. We could just pull this entire hose out all the way. And that might just be I think maybe I'll just go ahead and do that, because you can always just thread it back in just to get it out of the way, because it's going to be a mess trying to install this thing with the hose. I got the hose out, and one thing to really look for is this rubber O-ring. Make sure that there's a rubber O-ring around the top here. Anyway, now we're ready to just take this thing and plug it into the sink. Well, that went in very easy. I very carefully slid everything and very gently bent everything and pushed it through the hole, and it went just in, and now we just put everything in the bottom, hook up the water supplies, and we'll be done. It doesn't say to do this in the directions, but just for the fun of it, I'm putting in a nice little bead of silicone rubber underneath there, just because I don't want this thing to leak, and that's because of the way I am. Okay, here's what we got going on in here. I tightened up that big huge nut really tight, and I had to have somebody holding on the top so that the thing wouldn't spin around the top, and I really cranked this thing down hard tight, and it's really solid. And then once that silicone rubber sets up, this thing will never be moving, never be leaking. The big problem I had was I had to kind of push the cold water pipe. It was really close to that big threaded hole, and so the cold was making it really hard to get the nut on. But once I finally got everything in there, the washer in there, and all the rest of those things in there, it seemed to go pretty good. Hooked up I unscrewed the little plastic caps on the hot and the cold inlets, and put the supplied hoses on there, and I tightened them up really good by hand, and then I took a wrench and gave him just a little bit of snugging. You don't go crazy on those things. You know, it's not like the compression fitting. Now the compression fitting from the wall, that thing you have to really crank on, or it's going to be leaking over here. But the rest of these connections that go to them, they have an O-ring, so you just have to get them mechanically secure, and the O-ring will do everything. So you just you snug it up, but don't go nuts on it. So now we're ready for the main hose. Okay, so we'll kind of take a look at like step 4 here and figure out what they're talking about. So basically we got the hose coming down here, and talk about screwed up instructions. You notice how they show the heads on here. You know how I took off this bottom part of the hose? I took off the under the sink part of the hose so I get to pull up the hose out from the head. Well, on the last page of instructions, they show you putting the head back on. So they show, like, maybe implying that it goes the opposite way, although they never really say to do that. Okay, so they're talking about here, this is called the noise silencer. And of course, this is the noise silencer. This is a little piece of plastic. So this goes on that big stainless steel threaded piece, and then the hose coming through there, I guess, doesn't make noise. Next will come on this little collar. Next will come on the spring. And then I'll put this thing on. Actually, I think maybe I'm going to have to loop the hose back through the other end here and then put this thing on. So tell you what, I'll show you the completed thing there so that you can figure it out there. But the instructions, and like I say, on the last step of the instructions, they're showing step 10 here. They're showing putting this head on. And I mean, that's just so crazy. You shouldn't have ever had to do that. You really should have taken off this end on the bottom and then completely pulled the hose out and got the hose out of the way, because you just don't want around there reinstalling this thing. So here are the spring. I took a pair of wire cutters and cut this little plastic cap on the end. And now now that spring just comes right out. So now that we put everything together, we're left with these two parts right here. I couldn't find any use for either one of these two things. This little wrench looks like maybe for something internal. I couldn't find anything that this little wrench fit on. And this thing, I don't know what the hell it is. It has some sort of a collar, and you kind of see these little flats there, little flats there. Now I was thinking that would fit on the stainless steel thing for the outlet underneath the sink, but that didn't fit. And then it's got two little flats right there. And this must be some sort of internal wrench for taking the sink apart, but it was not used during the assembly. Let me show you what I got here. You can see the... Boy, I wish the light was better in here. You can see that little ring, and I just put on this metal part over here, the very end part I was telling you about, and it's through the ring. And make sure you have a 13mm wrench. You see this, well, I can't really use one. Okay. See the brass thing at the end there? You're going to need a 13mm wrench for that. And I just use an adjustable for the flats on the stainless steel thing. Now this screws into here. You see where I got my finger? I take off that black cap that's on the end. Okay, let me get on camera. Take out the black cap on the end. It goes into here. And then this will be the end of it. So let's do that. Okay, boy, this was a lot of fun. Okay, you can kind of see how it looks. The spring kind of comes down here. Oops. There's the spring and kind of goes up. So, and that little collar keeps it anchored right here. And this was the fun one. Let me see here. Okay, see my fingers and that stainless steel coupling there. That has just one little flat on there. So it's not like a full hex. It's round, just two little flats. So I had to tighten that thing down, and every time I tightened it down, it put a kink in the hose. So I had to have somebody else at the top of the hose. Every time I turned it a turn, I'd have them twist it a turn to unkink the hose. So I would kink it, and they would unkink it, and then we go back and forth, kinking and kinking it. So now it looks like it's pretty good right now. And anyway, so anyway, here we are. All finished. Seems to work pretty well. Here it's in cold. Here it's in hot. We'll put it back to cold again. Then we can turn on the spray. And it's nice and big. It has lots of room. This thing kind of comes out. I guess, get about a foot. About a foot's about all you're going to get out of this thing. And it seems to work pretty well. So there it is, finished product.